Well, Navi Pillay is the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights. She joins me now from Geneva. A pleasure to have you with us as always. Now, the human rights situation from this end of the world doesn't seem to be getting much better. What is the research that your organisation does tell you about the human rights situation in Syria now?
Well, I think what is happening in Syria is a true test of the lack of action by the international community. Now more than ever, they really need to act. I have been looking at the facts found by the Commission of Inquiry. They all point to war crimes being committed there, both by the government forces and the rebel forces. And I echo the call of the Secretary General and now Mr. Brahimi for an immediate stop to the killings, a ceasefire.
All right. Now, I want to ask you specifically about allegations that came out about 4 days ago that the Syrian military is using cluster bombs. What is your position on that?
We are still trying to verify that information. I myself saw video footage of these cluster bombs. They are illegal, and international law forbids the use of cluster bombs, particularly on the part of state authorities.
If they are indeed being used, would you say this would be a violation, the Syrian government would be violating international humanitarian law from the pictures and the evidence you've seen?
There would certainly be a very serious violation of international humanitarian law, Sammy, because of how dangerous they are and how indiscriminately they can damage and kill people when they land on the ground and burst.
All right. Now, aside of the question of cluster bombs, Navi, your office has documented other cases of abuses of human rights. The question that was posed to me by a Syrian is, what can Navi Pillay, what can her office do to turn these documented cases into a legal process? When are we going to see this going to court?
We all hope that justice will take action as soon as possible. Unfortunately, that does not appear to be the case immediately. I support the call of Mr. Brahimi that there has to be a ceasefire. What the fact-finding commissions and my office is doing is finding the facts, because it's very important that the truth be told. The information we are gathering will be useful for a credible investigation and prosecution someday. In my lifetime, I have seen justice come into action, for instance, in Rwanda, and when I served as a judge as the International Criminal Court. You cannot put off the call of justice for very long. In Cambodia, for instance, those trials are taking place 25 years after the event, and those trials are possible because the evidence and facts had been gathered on the ground. The information we have will be made available to any credible national or international institution. And in the meantime, I am preserving the information together with sealed lists of named perpetrators.
So your office has put together then material specifically for a future legal action then?
That's the purpose, the gathering of the information. Obviously, victims have a right to know what happened. They are entitled to this information. But the key importance of the information we have is that it would end up in a proper judicial proceedings sooner or later. And this is one of the key recommendations of the Commission of Inquiry set up by the Human Rights Council. Their recommendation is that the alleged perpetrators must be brought to trial and victims must receive reparation for what has happened to them.
Right. I'd like to ask you now, Lakhdar Brahimi, as you know, is trying to arrange a temporary ceasefire. From a human rights perspective, and given the past experience with ceasefires, would a temporary ceasefire be of any value for human rights?
Any withholding of force and violence that would save human lives is important. in the human rights system. However, if people can get together and agree on a ceasefire for a single day, because it's an important religious day, the same spirit should prevail and have a ceasefire pending negotiations for peace. So I support a permanent ceasefire, a stop to all the violence, and negotiations for a settlement involving the Syrian people.
Okay, a line that's coming out is that the ceasefire, according to Brahimi, will have some kind of monitoring. What can you tell us as a senior UN official? I know it's not your department, but from what you know about any arrangements or plans for the UN to play a monitoring role?
The UN, in its various departments, peacekeeping and political affairs, stands ready to supply this level of monitoring, particularly if it requires military and security personnel. My office is in a position to provide human rights monitors to ensure that people are safeguarded against human rights violations during the process of ceasefire, that the ceasefire is being observed. I have already offered the services of human rights advisors to Mr. Brahimi, and of course, with his experience, Mr. Brahimi fully appreciates that he would need human rights advisors on the ground, or if not based in Damascus, then outside.
All right, we'll have to leave it there.
Wherever he sets up office.
Thank you so much. Navi Pillay, live from Geneva.
Thank you.